Are you doing the racing commission?
Nope.
Thank you, members.
Okay. Ms. Heitzman. Izzy, how you doing today?
Good.
Racing commission.
Good. Thank you.
Racing commission.
And then you can go ahead and take that one as well, and I'll.
All right, I'll sit back.
Sure.
Thank you. Alrighty. All right, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, can everybody hear me all right?
Yes.
Alrighty, so we're gonna go over the recommendation for the State Racing Commission. This is Agency Code 469. Joined with me today is Ismael Trejo, the Executive Director. We've got Amber Trujillo, CFO, apologies, and Sam Bregman, I believe, Commissioner for the State Racing Commission, Chairman. I'll go ahead and go over the highlights and then hand it over to Donna Rivera if she's on the call as well. Both recommendations for the Racing Commission supported a general fund revenue increase over FY22. LFC provided a general budget of about $2.5 million or a 3.2% increase, while the executive recommendation provided a slightly lower general fund budget of $2.4 million, which is nearly flat with FY22. Both recommendations you can also see on page 2 recommends $300,000 from industry racing revenues and $700,000 in projected revenue from the Racehorse Testing Fund. The LFC recommendation funds a slightly higher amount for contracts, specifically for things like independent audit staff, veterinarian services, and IT contracts. The executive fully funds the agency request for other costs, whereas LFC recommends slightly lower for other costs like travel and vehicles. And then just a note on the contracts piece, the executive recommendation reported that they did not include costs for some contracts, but supports inclusion of these costs if the committee adopts the executive recommendation. Both analysts have come to consensus on performance measures and targets, and I'll go ahead and hand it to Donna Rivera at DFA, if that's okay, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Donna.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I have nothing to add. I think that Jessica did an excellent review. Thank you.
Thank you. Izzy, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Izzy Trejo, Director of the New Mexico Racing Commission since March 26, 2016. I have with me today Chairman Sam Bregman and our CFO Amber Trujillo. We're all going to be open for any questions after I do a brief presentation. The staff and I consider it an honor and privilege to serve the citizens of New Mexico in regulating horse racing. A tough job, a big job with a small staff, but we're always happy to do it and we enjoy it. We work hard. We're a blue-collar agency that loves the horse racing industry and has a great passion for it. As I always say, the cornerstone of our industry is drug testing of the racing animals. The agency's made quite a bit of headway since I come on board in 2016. We've increased our drug testing between 2017 and 19. And I would give you 20 numbers, but we were closed down quite a bit, so we don't want to compare 20 in there. But we've increased drug testing on post-race samples for horses by over 124%. During that same time, we've seen drug violations decrease by over 75%. It's being effective, and we feel it's effective because we've increased our out-of-competition testing program, and that's where we go and drug test horses that are just in training, and we feel, and we've seen the numbers dictate that when our out-of-competition numbers have increased, the post-race violations have decreased. So we think we're onto something with that testing program. We've kind of reached our pinnacle right now with the funding that's available, and we'd like to do more with it. We'd like to implement a drug testing program for training hours for these horses. They do get injured during the mornings. We'd like to assure that they're not out there on any therapeutic medications that, like the equivalent of aspirin, a drug called phenylbutazone, training while they have infirmities where they should really stay in the stall and rest. With that, we do need extra staff, such as another official veterinarian, to help us execute that program. We think that would help decrease the catastrophic breakdowns in our industry, which catastrophic breakdowns are when a horse injures itself during a race and has to be euthanized. But I am happy to report that in 2021, the New Mexico Racing Commission and the New Mexico horse racing industry experienced probably one of the lowest catastrophic rates in the nation. Only 0.872 horses per every 1,000 horse that runs suffered a catastrophic injury, whereas in 2020 the national average was 1.41 horses per 1,000 starts suffered a catastrophic injury. But we're happy with the performance that we've done, but we feel that we could do the public and the betting industry a lot better. We just need a little bit more resources to do that. A little bit goes a long ways with this agency. We're very small, so we're very budget sensitive. A little cut hinders us, a little gain really benefits us quite a bit. And if anyone has any questions, I would prefer to pass it to CFO Amber Trujillo to discuss the budget a little more. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions afterwards.
Mr. Chairman, you have anything to add?
Briefly, Mr. Chairman, thank you, and Senators, thank you for allowing us this opportunity. Horse racing, I can tell you, I've been given the honor of being put on the commission in February. It is a great honor, and horse racing, for the most part, is doing very well in New Mexico. I have to say, I'm really bullish on horse racing and the way things are going. The two biggest priorities we have at the commission are the health and safety of the athletes, the horses and the jockeys. That is key. That's the most important thing. Right behind that is making sure that the game is fair and square to the betting public so they have faith in it. This horse racing industry has a huge economic impact. I know you've heard that all before on the state of New Mexico, with all the jobs it creates, and the tourism it creates, the economic viability. With all that said, this staff with 13 people, I'm amazed about what they're being able to accomplish. But they do need a little bit of help. One of the things we want to focus on is auditing the racetracks more than we do. We need to do that. That's important to make sure that this game, that everybody's following the rules. I'm not suggesting that anybody isn't, but we always want to make sure, because we are dealing with gambling here. And it requires to make sure we have the resources to do that. And so I think that's very important. That's one of the reasons why we're asking, just basically, I think, to get back to a budget that we were at before the pandemic. That's all we're really asking for at the Racing Commission, is to get us back there. The testing is a huge part. I talk about our number one priority is the safety of the athletes, and the fairness of the game. That's all about testing, because when we catch them at the Racing Commission, we punish the cheaters. Since I've been on there, I can tell you the entire commission is focused on making sure that people who are willing to drug animals for the benefit of themselves and for the harm of the animals are going to be punished. And we're doing everything we can to make sure we catch them. To do that, it does require testing, and a lot of it. And I think the message has gotten out in the racing community that we're very serious about this. With that, I'll stop. I'm happy to answer any questions, and perhaps Amber can go over any specifics, or we'd be happy to just answer questions now, whatever the chairman prefers.
Questions from committee members. Senator Scheer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my first question is about the budget directly. Does industry pay for any of this testing, or is this all coming from the state budget?
Is you, Amber, which one?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Senator Scheer. Our budget's a little unique. There's a budget line for $700,000 that's for testing. When that's in our budget, actually at the beginning of the fiscal year, that number is zero. That money is generated by a half percentage of the capital outlay tax on every live dollar wagered on track at our racetracks. It's wired to the agency every week, and that comes to the tune of about $600,000 to $700,000 every year. So that's a projected number that we try to hit. That would carry us through the fiscal year. And then one thing that we're hoping for in the future is we have $600,000 sitting in an account, and Amber, Mr. Trujillo may have to correct me here. She's the expert on this. Because we start at zero at the beginning of every fiscal year, it's tough to come up with a strategy for testing for the next year, because we don't know how much money we're going to make. It's all dependent on how much money is bet at the racetracks. Racing could have a great year one year, and we think, great, this is easy, we could test quite a bit. But then the following year, should a recession occur or sports wagering come on and pari-mutuel handles start declining, that means less money for testing. So our plan, our strategy goes right out the window for that year. So it'd be a lot easier if we could get use of the $600,000 that's sitting in an account that was erroneously reverted back to the state a couple years ago. If we can get use of that money and start every year with at least $600,000, at least we could plan with a strategy for the upcoming fiscal year. And then meanwhile, where we're spending that $600,000, we're generating money for the Equine Test Fund for the previous year.
And so, is there a percentage, although it may change, of how much of this is, how much of the testing is paid for by industry versus how much is paid for, or is it all paid for by industry?
Yes, Senator, Mr. Chairman, Senator Scher, members of the committee, it's our budget comes from appropriation, but as far as that, the testing, if we don't generate enough money from the pari-mutuel taxes, we have to pull it directly from our operating budget. And that's what happened during the pandemic, when there wasn't a lot of racing going on, and the attendance was limited at our racetracks. We weren't generating enough money to pay for the testing. The agency was losing money every race day that we ran, and it was a little frightening. We weren't sure if we could do our job as regulators. So we do have the operating budget that it would be pulled from in the case, worst case scenario. I'll say that was the worst case scenario.
So in general, you generate, not counting last year, but do you generate enough money just as the racing commission to take care of the expenses? I see one of these here, it says, and maybe I'm reading it wrong, average regulatory cost per live race day, $5,291, I think, for regulatory for that one race day, unless there's thousands in there somewhere. That's a lot of money for one day for regulation.
Is that everybody's salaries combined?
Yeah.
That's the entire budget. I'm sure they're dividing up by race days, Mr. Chairman, Senator, and I think one of the things that's important to recognize is New Mexico is doing very well in one sense. We are, the Horsemen and the purses are running for $60 million. I mean, that's just the purses that are the winnings. This industry generates over $500 million in economic value to the state. So I do know that, yes, that may sound like a lot, but we're doing, how many race days are we?
It's about 206 race days this year.
206 race days this year. That's a lot of racing compared to most of the states out there, Mr. Chairman, Senator.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think what I'm not asking, well, is can this,
Senator Scher.
does this run as can they run in the black? Do they raise their own money? Yes, I know it's got to go back through the budget, but do y'all raise your own money, or is it still, because with $16 million, a billion, whatever number you said.
Chairman, Senator, I don't think that the way it's structured right now, statutorily, that the budget and the way the gaming statutes and the racing commission statutes are, that we could fund that without getting the budget that we do from the legislature. I don't see that happening.
In my last question, you talked about the audits. On here, it looks like what you're looking for is to budget for one audit per year, but we only have 5 tracks.
Do you want to address that, Kimber? Can I have Ms. Trejo address that?
Excuse me.
Mr. Chairman, Senator, thank you.
Excuse me. Mr. Chair, Senator, members of the committee, we put that as a start. We do have 5 racetracks. However, because we are getting so late in the year, we are starting with 1 for now. We did hire an accountant auditor, so to kind of keep the workload down right now, as it's a learning curve. That's kind of what we're striving for is just 1 at this point in time. However, our goal is about 2 for the year, possibly 3. Again, depending on money, our contracts were cut by $66,000. We're hoping that we can get the contract for about $30,000. So basically that would be 2 contracts to audit 2 tracks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I do think if there's an agency out here that could be a revenue generator, it's them. So if we're in their way, we ought to move. Thank you.
And Senator, the reverting funds, right? When we do the sweeps at the end of the year is what puts them in that situation. They're cash positive, but when you revert back to the general fund, that makes them cash neutral. So they have to rebuild the funds every year. And so they're starting from zero every year. Senator Steinborn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Chair Bregman. It's always good to see you. Haven't seen you in a long time. So I learned something new today, Mr. Chairman. I didn't know a lot about the commission, but this whole structure where you have to raise money to basically do enforcement of protecting animals and testing, it's kind of like there's a perverse incentive in a way to not have you be, flush with money to do more testing, I guess, in a way. I don't think that's I'm sure that's not what's going on, but I don't think it's probably an appropriate way to do enforcement anyway. I totally agree that you need to have a stable funding base, somewhat independent of revenues, so that you can do robust testing. And I think whatever language we need to look at, I think we should consider that, as opposed to you having to raise money and then your ability to do enforcement is tied to that. I just think that's not appropriate for a lot of reasons. So that's number one. And number two, on the auditing request, it's interesting, Mr. Chairman, that the LFC is the one requesting and supporting your request for more auditing, which to me tells me they probably did an evaluation and they've looked at these numbers. And Chair Bregman, question to you and your staff, your team there. If you were to have more resources for auditing, is it possible that that money would come back to you basically in the way of a fuller accounting of receipts? And
I don't know that I'd go that far. There's so many different avenues of parimutuel betting. There's simulcasters. There's all kinds of so we want to get a handle on it. I'm not suggesting by any means that we're going to that the tracks, for example, are doing anything in particularly wrong by any means. But I think we owe it as a responsibility to the betting public as well as everybody involved in horse racing that we make sure that the game is completely fair at all levels, not just with the horses, not just with the trainers, jockeys, but that the tracks, because we are dealing with taxpayer dollars here. And so I think that's very important. I wanted to address the first thing you mentioned, if I can, Mr. Chairman and Senator, about the issue of this is just to a certain extent to be able to do the kind of testing that we're doing. I want to make it very clear that we would love to test as much as we could do, because that's what makes it fair and that's what makes the difference. And that's why our numbers of positive tests are going down. I think that you can see the correlation because we're doing so much more testing. We're doing more testing, and there's a whole nother issue of HISA coming up, and that's the thoroughbred racing. But we're doing more testing than I think they even anticipate doing under the federal legislation. So I just want to make sure we'll do as much testing as you give us the opportunity to do financially.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, and I'm with you, and I think whether it's animal welfare or just making sure people aren't cheating and all those kinds of issues. So, and finally on the audit, yeah, I mean, it's what Reagan say, trust but verify. So, you got to keep people honest, and auditing is part of the deal. So anyway, I hope we follow the LFC rec and we follow your requests. So thank you. Good to see everybody. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Because we've kind of seen in the media, we've seen the play out between the disconnect between the commission and tracks and then racehorse owners, I'm going to ask you to comment on some of the lawsuits that are surrounded. So in 2020, the Horsemen's Association filed a lawsuit against your commission seeking the return of more than $8 million that the horsemen allege the commissioner has been collecting improperly from the horsemen. Then again, last year we saw another lawsuit brought on by the horsemen, this time for ethics violation and conflicts of interest among commissioners. Can you comment and give us an update status on those lawsuits, please?
Certainly, I'd be happy to. Mr. Chairman, Senator, as you know, I am the chairman of the Racing Commission, but I've also been a lawyer for 30 years. And I've never seen in all my days a more frivolous lawsuit than was filed by the Horsemen, in this case, in my life. They're suing their regulator, saying that us following the statute, that they should get more money somehow with us following the statute. Completely irresponsible. They filed another lawsuit in federal court. The court's already put a stay on that. They're filing lawsuits like the ice cream man's giving out ice cream sandwiches. It's ridiculous. I've never seen anything like this. I don't know why they're doing it other than they want to be regulators themselves, the Horsemen. I can't go through all the specifics of this because that would take several hours to talk about all the intricacies of this. But I'm extremely frustrated. We should be acting as one industry right now. We've got a HISA bill coming down, the federal legislation that we have to deal with. We should be promoting the kind of things in unity. The Horsemen, the breeders, the tracks, the racing commission, all together being one voice to better the sport. Instead, we don't have the breeders joining in, by the way, with the Horsemen. They don't believe in what they're doing. They'll tell you that themselves. The Horsemen sued the racetracks as well. They've sued everybody. This is a sue-happy. I mean, you talk about something that's just ridiculous to me, Mr. Chairman and Senator. I can't get past it, but they're losing. They lost the federal case has been stayed for a long time. I can tell you, and most of you all know, that in the litigation world, things take time to resolve themselves out. But I can't believe what they've done and how they're dividing the industry, unfortunately, right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your opinion on the suit, but what is the judge's opinion? Where are the court cases now?
Right. I'll be very specific again with you. They're all stayed right now.
So we have not had a judge's ruling on the cases. Is that correct?
No, there is one judge rule to put a stay on it because of qualified immunity and because of the type of complaint that was filed in federal court. The others, the judges have put a stay on it at the request of all the parties so that we could get together, which I called upon, all the parties to get together in a room to try and resolve our differences. Everybody agreed except the New Mexico Horsemen's Association.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Rodriguez.
Chairman, I just have a quick question. I think we're all pretty beat. Hello, Sam.
Hi, Senator.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, hi, Senator.
Sorry, good to see you. That's great, Nancy, and your staff, and of course our staff, and the governor's staff. Thank you. You know that sometimes we see lots of paperwork here from different budgets, and many times we see small budgets like these, and we just wonder how you do such a big job with so much responsibility, being looked at with a magnifying glass all the time with such few resources. And so I want to commend you for being resourceful in every way that you can. I do have one simple question, and maybe for our staff or whoever wants to answer this. I looked at the budget recommendations here, and I'm wondering, you know, why is it that we are recommending, both the governor and the LFC, recommending $700,000 as projected revenues? So we're projecting that they're going to get $700,000 from the racehorse testing fund, and when their revenues, actual revenues, are only 200 and give me a second here. I think, okay, the ending fund balance, the projected revenues are only 270. That's like half of what they really get, you know. So I'm just wondering, wouldn't that be quite underfunded? Can you tell me a little bit?
Mr. Chair, Senator Rodriguez, I am a little bit newer to this block, so I'll do my best, but I would also offer comment from Donna Rivera at DFA in case she has any additional comment. But I would say, you know, this is, I think, historically how this has been funded. LFC has been in conversation with the agency to kind of investigate some potential options to eliminate that issue that you're mentioning. You know, there's the potential for establishing a separate fund, things of that nature. However, I don't know that I can speak directly to, you know, why that was kind of set up, budgeted in that way in the first place, but I know that this has been kind of the historical way that that's been broken out, that it's been an anticipated revenue. But I'll see if Donna Rivera has any additional comment on that.
Okay, maybe Donna can help us, but I hope that my question was clear so I don't take too much time, and I'm having a hard time with this mask. But basically what we're saying is their revenues are only $270,000 for 2021, but yet we're projecting in their budget that they're $700,000. So that's like twice as much when they're really not getting that much. I want to make sure we just don't shortchange them. That's all I'm asking. So maybe somebody else. Who did you say was here?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Senator Rodriguez, either Donna Rivera at DFA or I believe Amber, the CFO, might have additional comment as well.
Thank you. Either one's good.
Mr. Chair, Senator Rodriguez, the reason that both the LFC and the DFA recommended the $700,000 in revenue is because the agency requested that. The reason why you're seeing $263,000 is because a lot of the racetracks weren't actually open. So that is significantly lower than what they usually anticipate. And they're hoping that this next year they will be able to go closer to their actual revenue in pre-COVID times. I don't know if the agency would like to add more to that.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Senator Rodriguez, if I may add to that. So we're talking about two separate types of revenue. This year, I'll give you current numbers for this year. We have the Equine Test Fund, which by statute, the agency is allowed to keep up to $600,000. I know a question was asked about the $700,000 appropriation, and we submitted some language requesting to use our fund balance of the $600,000 as appropriated by statute, and hopefully that will give us some breathing room to set up the testing, because that $600,000 is designated only for testing, nothing else. Second, revenue that the agency has is the racing receipts. That revenue is completely returned back to the general fund. So, as of December, the total revenue that has been generated is $314,000. So this year for the Equine Test Fund, that $700,000 that we're talking about in the budget will be pretty close, absolutely, because half the year has already gone by, and we have already half of that revenue. As far as the racing receipts, as of December, what we already turned back into the general fund is $473,095. So we are looking very good as far as our revenues to turn back to the state. I hope that kind of clarifies some of the questions as to why it's so low, but that's why we're asking for the language for the $600,000 to basically help us have a full bucket of money, as our executive director indicated. And that way that we don't have to keep on stop, can't test as much, or continue to test. Because then what happens at that point is the general fund money that we use to float the test fund until we generate that revenue, we can't utilize it. We end up returning it back to the state, and it looks like our agency is not spending the money properly, and we're not being good stewards of public money, just returning it back. So that's kind of the second reason that we're looking for this special language, to let us utilize our fund balance, not to just supplement our budget to buy anything we want. It's highly restrictive. I would like to note that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that explanation. And I can understand the rationale behind your request. I just wanted to make sure that you're not being shortchanged by us projecting you're going to get this much, knowing that you don't, and knowing that you only get this other amount. So thank you very much for that explanation. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. I can end that problem with the Horsemen pretty dang quick. I'll make a transfer that's your operational money, and it'll go to the agency, and then the Horsemen can file a suit against the state, and we can resolve that issue in about 10 seconds. But when members of the legislature are texting other members of the legislature to ask questions about a lawsuit, it kind of irritates me. And in this committee, we're pretty self-thinking. We shouldn't have to do that. And so, but I can end that Horsemen's debate in a matter of minutes. I'll just give you that in your general fund and let the Horsemen figure out how they're going to do that. That's a simple solution to a problem that we can resolve pretty quickly and fix two problems at one time. We understand that the need to backfill because you are not an enterprise agency. And so we understand when we swipe those general funds to start at zero is a very hard budgeting request, especially when you're trying to do some audit compliance and show that you're forthright in what you want to do in the horse racing. So I think we'll see what House appropriation comes out with if they don't make some adjustments. I'm sure Senator Steinborn is willing to make those adjustments for us. And so we appreciate your time here today. We do have some other ones, and I hate to rush that through, but I just, questions that come that way just kind of irritate me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, members of the committee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you. We're going to do Indian Affairs, and I think we're going to quit. Lynn, Secretary Trejo are there. I know, and everybody, we kind of run late on the floor and we get in this situation, but some of these agencies like the Racing Commission, you just don't know until you hear from them where the little chinks are in the armor and how to fix them. So I think that's very important for us. Some of these smaller agencies that don't get that attention, that we hear that.
Mr. Chairman, you won't be addressing Gaming Control Board then today?
No, we're going to push them tomorrow. It's 5:30 right now. There's some evening events. You guys need to get on the road so you don't get in an ice storm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Eric, as quickly as you can be, this is a small agency. Madam Secretary, I know you're there. I know you're a small agency. I want to make sure we hear you because you guys are in my heart, really, because you've struggled